What's up, Kansas City? I'm your host, Glenn Bryan Frizzell. Today we are filming at the 18th and Vine District, historic Lincoln Building. Today's special guest is seeking your vote as a 5th District Kansas City City Council candidate. We're happy to have him here today. Please give a warm What's Up, Kansas City welcome to Mr. Lance Conley.
How you doing, sir?
Awesome, man.
Good.
I'm glad that you could make it. It's always nice to meet young, new movers and shakers,
Sure.
I would like to say. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Well, my name is Lance Conley. I'm running for the 5th District City Council seat, of course. I'm married with 3 little boys, my wife Dana, and our boys Quentin, Devin, and Darren. Devin and Darren are twins, so they certainly keep us busy in the household, for sure. By trade, I work at Truman Medical Center. I'm a director of business marketing and communications, so that's what I do for a living. So
Sounds intense.
Yes, sir. But it's really a natural fit for this role as well as a candidate, because I get to work with a lot of the same people that I'll be representing in the 5th District.
You talk about people and representation.
Mm-hmm.
What are your, I guess you could say, comments, reaction to some of the comments that candidates have made, the points that they're making? Let me read this to you here.
Sure.
KSHB Television, they are saying that they want economic development in their area. 5th District residents are also saying that the blight and the violence in their neighborhoods has to stop. We're fed up with it. We won't put up with it any longer. After hearing that, what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, well, that's why I'm running. For us, healthy neighborhoods, education, crime reduction, and accountable government are the 4 things on our platform, and they all lead back to—
Could you repeat those?
Sure. Healthy neighborhoods, education, crime reduction, and accountable government. And all those things lead back to a better quality of life for the residents of the 5th District. And so when you speak about economic development and crime, we certainly have to address those. That's why healthy neighborhoods is #1, because everything goes back to the health of that neighborhood. If we're not putting our people to work and they're not being able to come back and reinvest in their neighborhoods, then we're going to continue to see a lot of the blight, a lot of the abandoned lots, a lot of the houses that need to be taken care of.
How do we reinvest in our neighborhood?
Absolutely. It's by putting people to work. I think one of the things that we're looking at, and that I've promised to do, is to hold monthly meetings with the community once I'm elected, to make sure that we're doing everything that we need to do to communicate with them. But along with that, I want to also have job training sessions in those meetings. So that way young brothers that are looking for jobs, or sisters as well, we want to make sure that we are putting them in position to be able to get some of those jobs.
Sure. Residents in Kansas City's 5th District are demanding change. And this is probably just a sampling of the comments that you will hear.
Sure.
They need to drive through the streets and look at the youth that are not working, not in school, with no prospects, and low education. Now you say employment is the answer for that. Calvin Brown, a lifelong Kansas City resident, just said the comment that I read. What is your stance on economic development?
It's key. It's essential, and I tie that in with healthy neighborhoods. I think that for me, I have a master's MBA in healthcare administration, and so I've been able to work towards my degree and been able to have jobs that have allowed me to do some things and give back to community, help out with our boys, coaching, and those kind of things. And I think once someone has those opportunities, then they can actually start reinvesting in the community.
Now, who mentored you? Who helped pave, I want to say pave the way,
Sure,
who
sure.
mentored you and helped make the journey that much easier?
Yeah, my
told you that this is some of the things that you experienced along the way. You said your father?
My father and parents in general. My mom and dad were certainly instrumental. They weren't able to go to college, but they made sure that myself, my brothers and I, and sisters were able to go to college. So, and I think that generational being able to pour back into the next generation. So for my 3 boys, it's an expectation, not only to go to college, but you're going to go to grad school and maybe further on. My wife has her master's as well. And so in our household, we want to make sure that they're prepared for college. And so that's kind of some of the things that we talk about, in our house and making sure our boys are ready. Because when you look at the landscape right now in Kansas City, and especially this year, our youth are often disconnected, not necessarily just their fault, but it seems to be.
When were you at MU?
Yeah, oh, I was down there in '93 is when I graduated high school. And so from '94 is the first year that.
No, it's not the same anymore for for the youth as it was for us.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you attribute that to?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues. One of the things is lack of parenting, lack of fathers in the household is one thing that we seem to be a common trend. When 70% of young black babies are born in a single parent household, then I think that's a big issue. But it's not an excuse. We've seen several people rise out of that. We've seen several people be successful out of that. But I think if you see a young man and he's struggling and has potential, and as someone like myself, if I don't step in and help that young man, then something's wrong with me. So I think it's just incumbent on all of us as adults, as parents. If you know someone that doesn't have a father figure, then you need to step in. So one of the things that I do, I'm the leader of my middle school class at church. And so I teach the middle schoolers, and so we're very active with that age group as well.
That's very important.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Very important.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So that's one of the things that my wife and I try to do to help give back as well, and be teachers and give an example of what it should look like with a positive marriage and raising our kids the right way.
A spiritual foundation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent way to contribute. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're running for the 5th District?
Yeah. For me, I want to be able to bring a better quality of life to the residents of the 5th District.
That's a hard task.
It is. And when I sit in the meetings and hear the neighborhood leaders speak, they're really concerned about some of the issues that may have not been addressed in the past. They don't want to just hear the same politics, political answers, the same thing just to get their vote. They want to see results, and they're fed up, and understandably so. I think we really need to deal with the issue of blight, abandoned houses. That's a huge deal. We need to deal with the economic forces as well. When you think about the current status right now nationally, the unemployment rate is going down across the board. However, black folks in general are still most unemployed out of all the minority groups. And so I think we need to address that, and make sure we're putting brothers and sisters to work.
And how do you tackle these issues of employment, issues of crime prevention?
Absolutely.
Your platform issues, how do you tackle those in the political arena? Are you confident that you can make successful inroads and get the job done?
Absolutely. I think we've, especially last year, we saw some good traction with reducing crime. I'm a big fan of Chief Forte. I think he's doing an excellent job. But we can't just rest on that. We really need to get engaged with our youth, make sure they have places to go, make sure that we are in tune with what they're going through. When you see some of the recent murders this year in Kansas City, I think the majority of them have been on young kids, 14 and under, which is a travesty, and that should never happen. And so I think for us, we have to stay vigilant. We can't, celebrate the reducing crime when there's still that kind of crime going on, And it'll take us being involved in the children's lives to make sure that we're equipping them with their resources that they need, so they don't feel like they have to do some of the things that get them in trouble.
Now, you mentioned the importance of mentoring and the importance of giving back. Are you on board with the president's My Brother Keeper?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. I loved seeing that when it was first rolled out. I think that is key, and that's essential. And I would love to be involved with something like that. Again, I mentor youth at my church. And
what's your take on the shrinking middle class, the status of today's middle class?
The wealth gap is probably one of the biggest things that we have to deal with. When you consider, even during the recession, the wealthier got much wealthier, and that gap got much wider. you know. And so now that the economic outlook is looking a little bit brighter, we need to capitalize on that and build the middle class back up. You know, the president just recently proposed in the State of the Union raising the tax rate on the wealthiest of the Americans and lowering the rate on the middle class, you know, and I think that he's right on with that. The wealth gap, there's no reason why 1% of the population should control the majority of the wealth in this country. No reason. So we need to put people to work, you know, and so especially in our community, people are willing to work. They want jobs.
Is it just enough to go to college and come back home and get a good job? How can we, as educated black men, educated minorities, educated community, give back to our neighborhoods and make a difference? Yeah,
you're right. It's not just enough. We have to go get the degree, and in some aspects today, a degree wasn't what it was even 10 years ago. You almost have to get an advanced degree. But the thing is, there's other options as well for folks that want to work. Not everybody wants to go to college. There's different trade schools. There's different carpenters. There's a lot of things that brothers want to do and that are good at, that can excel at. So we need to promote job growth across the board. Now, as far as college, yes, those of us that have went to school and have, you know, got a little education and everything, we certainly need to make sure that we're doing all we can to help lift another brother up, to make sure that he's afforded the same opportunities that we've had.
Now, when I graduated from college, I won't mention the brother's name, but I was able to stay with a older man. He was divorced. He and his wife had went through bankruptcy, and he was rebounding. He had a very strong spiritual foundation, and he kind of instilled in me that these are the rules and these are the spiritual principles that you will live by to be successful. Life isn't just a party.
That's right.
So I really do feel what you're saying with that. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've seen out on the road when you've been campaigning?
Well, let me back up for a second. Spirituality to me is important as well. I'm not so much worried that people know me as a politician. I'd rather you know that I'm a Christian that's going into politics, you know, so I'm certainly not going to hide from that. And in fact, I wear that with honor. Absolutely, absolutely. So that's one thing. But to answer your second part of your question, when I'm out in the community, we've been out canvassing since Christmas Eve. So we know that it's going to be a tight race. And so we want to get our name out there. And so when I'm speaking with people and knocking on doors, what they're telling me is they want something done with the abandoned houses, the blight, the empty lots, and also we want to continue to reduce crime. Those are the top two things that keep coming up. And a close third is education, the education system here in Kansas City. And so I know Dr. Green is making great strides to get us back to full accreditation, but we certainly need to continue to work with our youth to make sure we get them there. Because here's the deal, if we don't improve on the education system, we're going to have a hard time attracting new business to come in town, and we're going to have a hard time keeping that business, retaining that business when they come in.
You don't have to convince me.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Education is definitely a pot that's boiling.
Yes, sir.
To keep boiling.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think really when you think about it, healthy neighborhoods, education, crime reduction, accountable government. If you live in a poor neighborhood, you're probably going to go to a poor school. If you go to a poor school, you're probably going to get a poor education. If you get a poor education, you're going to get a poor job. And so forth.
Result.
Absolutely. And then that's going to be generational issues that come up, and then you're going to have kids in that same environment, and that cycle is going to continue. And so it really goes back to revitalizing our neighborhoods, starting there, creating that economic development, and making sure people have the opportunity to prosper. And it goes back to the wealth gap. You know, the jobs and the opportunities should be out there. So we need to make sure that with Cerner and some of these big projects that are coming into town, accountability. We need to make sure that brothers like yourself, brothers that have businesses, that they're at that table as well, so they can capitalize on some of the business opportunities that will take place there.
So, Mr. Conley, we're going to hold you to that. And
absolutely.
Definitely like your idea of promoting role models being there. College is not necessarily for everyone, but everyone in their own particular way has a unique experience that
absolutely.
They can use to be that influential guide, that role model to someone.
Sure.
We promote education, we promote crime prevention here on the show.
Awesome.
You told us why you're running. Final thoughts here. Can you tell us why our viewers should vote for you?
Sure. I feel like the 5th District is ready for some change. They're ready for new leadership. If you look at the landscape, especially in my race, we have a lot of newcomers. A couple folks that have been around for a while, but we have a lot of newcomers, and I think that speaks to the desire of the voters to see something new, something different come in place. Especially in the 5th District, you know, we've had a little rocky road lately in the 5th District, so we want to make sure that we change that. So for myself, I feel like I've displayed some good leadership. I've been on several different boards with the city to prepare myself for this run, and I feel like I'm the best candidate for the job, and I will represent the 5th District to the best of my ability and make sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep that line of communication open.
Now, Coquita Hill is the current interim in that particular 5th District seat. Are you running as a response to the turmoil and the residents' concerns, or are you just running in general because you feel you can make
That's a great question.
difference?
Yeah, I was running regardless of what happened with everything, you know, and I don't know all the particulars and pointing fingers or anything, but I had planned to run a couple years ago, you know, and so for me it was just a matter of, as a voter, I would look back and say, hey, I think we need someone in there that can actually do some things and get some stuff done. And I felt like I had to throw my hat in the ring, you know. So instead of complaining about it, I wanted to be a part of the solution. And so that's why I was running, not necessarily because of anything else. But Coquita Hill, that was awesome that she was able to step in that interim role. And I know she'll do a great job representing the 5th. I've heard her speak a couple times, and I know she certainly has the neighborhoods in front of her mind when dealing with city council. So she'll certainly be a good addition.
All right, Mr. Conley, any final words for our viewers?
No, I appreciate the opportunity. I certainly want to make sure that you do hold me to it, like you said, and hopefully I'll be back here one day as the councilman for the 5th District.
Man has that rich baritone.
Yes.
So feel compelled to get out and vote on April 7th.
April 7th.
April 7th at the election. We'll see you there.
Absolutely.
We'd like to thank Mr. Conley for appearing with us today. It was a great first appearance. I can only hope that you come back and talk to us about how you're doing and how these issues have progressed.
Sure.
I'm your host, Glenn Bryan Frizzell. Check out more candidate information and video online at www.whatsupkansascity.net. And remember, the sky's the limit. Aim for the stars. If you miss, at the very least, you would have landed on the moon. Take care. Until next time.
CMG wants you to always remember, the victory we call success goes to the best prepared. When you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Thanks.